Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Universe Podcast. Today we're discussing episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Star Wars show. All that and more after a commercial break. We have no control over it.
Hi. It's completely gone. My chair doesn't go down any lower than this. It's terrible.
I'm not in a chair. I'm standing. So.
Oh. Yeah.
Welcome back. This is your host, Matthew. Is they them pronouns?
I'm Ashley Coffin.
I'm Paul Hoppy.
Welcome, both of you. So we're talking about Star Wars Kenobi episode 4. What'd you both think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Listen, they just need to keep doing this lightsabers and the Dark Ninja stuff for the rest of the show, and I'm just going to be so happy. When the lights went off, I was like, oh, yes, here it comes.
That was a great scene. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Paul, what about you?
I had a fair amount of quibbles, but the beauty of the lightsabers was not one of them. You know, that part was awesome.
Yeah, I think this was the episode where I really kind of got committed to, okay, this is the show they're doing. It's never going to be the show that I wanted, and I have some... I don't think this is going to be one of my favorite Star Wars properties, but I think this episode kind of pulled me in a lot more. I think more than anything, this episode is what made me think, I think I'm going to enjoy this a lot more when I can go back and binge it. To me, it's really suffering because the way it's paced, the way the story is unfolding, this is the first episode where I felt fully satisfied at the end of it, where I wasn't like, okay, why do I have to stop the story now?
It felt a little shorter than the other episodes. That might not be true, but for some reason I was like, oh, it's done. But I also tend to feel that way when it's just a lot of action, because then I'm excited and then I'm like, that goes so fast.
Now, one thing I have realized, and granted, I didn't figure this out myself, some TikTokers pointed this out, but I do think this is really cool, that all of these episodes are numbered officially with Roman numerals. 1, 2, 3, 4. And people have pointed out that so far they're doing it, that each episode has had a very solid reference to the corresponding movie. So cool. Episode 1 had Luke like flying, pretending he was pod racing, very much like an Anakin scene. Episode 2 had a clone trooper that get introduced in the Clone Wars. Episode 3 had, Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting in fire. And then this one had Princess Leia held prisoner in a Imperial facility that she had to be rescued from.
By Obi-Wan, who comes
by
in.
Obi-Wan. Who didn't say, I'm Ben, I'm here to save you, much to her disappointment. And she didn't say to anyone that they were short for a stormtrooper. But yeah, I just really liked when I realized like that correlation that they're doing.
That is cool.
I enjoyed, I did realize that a lot during the episode. I was like, oh, Obi-Wan, oh, and then this, and then there was actually a point where I was kind of like, okay, I'm like, I guess, you kind of just came up with your structure for the series by being like, all right, well, what happens in episode 5? Can we predict what happens? I felt
like that's how the new movies were, though.
Right? In Obi-Wan Strikes Back, or is that 5?
Right.
But
the first 2 episodes were much less of a connection.
Yeah, this one was like literally the plot of Star Wars, basically.
Definitely. Yeah, I think I enjoyed it. I really liked what's the Tara? Is that the name
Tala,
of the character?
I believe.
Tala.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really liked her, and I liked getting to see like the little bit of the kind of underground railroad they have. Though we've talked a lot about the Empire's need for better worker safety. I'm not a military person, but I've watched enough things and I've read enough things about aircraft carriers and how you protect bases with the Air Force and stuff like that. I'm going to go see Top Gun pretty soon. So I just want to say these 3 simple words to Imperial security people. Combat Air Patrol. It's the idea that you have your fighters in the air already so that if your base gets attacked, someone's there to stop them. Because when these 2 ships came out of nowhere to attack inside the base, and there was no TIE fighters anywhere to attack them, let alone after they started attacking, no TIE fighters launched.
It's level 10 boss house, though. They're like, ain't nobody coming here.
Mm-hmm.
They're crazy because they have all that what's it called, the useless, like a drive that goes nowhere. They're like when they don't kill James Bond, but they bring him back to tell them about their evil
monologuing.
Monologue. What are you doing?
Yeah.
That whole place is just a statue of a monologue.
If it were episode 6, I would say their overconfidence is their weakness.
That was
Yeah,
But-
that's fair. That's fair.
That's
But
the
yeah,
word I was
it
looking for.
definitely Lee was complaining about their lack of security and the fact that it's like it's not like they're these impressive ships either, right? It's these
Yeah.
people who are not soldiers coming in on these like little dinky things, and they're like, yeah, we're just totally gonna just massacre everyone. I was like, okay. I don't
And like
know.
they took the point to show us that there is TIE fighters at this base. They showed them that in the landing base. And like so even when the ship flew away and they were like, well, I hit one with a piece of furniture, but the other, gosh, we don't have any ships that could go chase them.
I think the idea is that there's like not that much of a rebellion yet.
Right.
Like that's the only way I can kind of square it, because it was kind of like I was like, just let it. Just there's enough things I'm annoyed about.
Yeah, Obi-Wan swam in. Though I wouldn't get in the water in a single planet in any Star Wars property.
No,
Never.
definitely-
Did you see that
definitely
starfish
not.
or whatever that
Yeah.
was?
Yeah.
I saw it. It's
No,
never
this is
good
very-
to get in the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
I never knew
sure.
I needed the deep to be part of the rebels, but yeah. those fish were a problem. I do need to just say one other quick thing that I don't know if there've been some great Clone War references. There's one thing that I caught that actually probably went totally over your head, but when they showed the tombs of the various Jedi, one of the first ones we saw who kind of looked like kind of a goat man type person, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be Tara Sanub, who's a Jedi Master. He's only mentioned in one episode of Clone Wars, but it's where Ahsoka loses her lightsaber, and he's this kind of like kindly old man who helps her. I saw him for 10 minutes on screen 5 years ago, and I cried when I saw him. It was just like such a like, oh, Filoni, I wanted Clone Wars references, but like, wow, that's a gut punch. I mean, I loved it, but it definitely hit me pretty hard. The skeptical look on Paul's face tells me he might have had a different reaction.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't need this. Like, I appreciate the attention to detail, and that, I mean, I think most of those Jedi were probably supposed to be some deep cuts, you know?
Oh, sure, yeah.
When it showed them, I was like, okay, these are probably some of the important. They're going to tell me later.
Right, exactly. You know, a lot of Easter eggs that will never hatch. But I will reiterate that I don't think Filoni has as much to do with this show as I think you think he does, but I don't know for certain. But like, he's involved a little, right?
I think it's more of a general, like, I think he has brought to Star Wars the idea of let's take the Clone Wars and the Rebels shows seriously and let's bring those stories in. I don't think he chose to put this one in. It's just more of a general, like, he's the sort of personification of the overall storytelling ethos that they have.
Right. Yeah. I think that's 100% correct. And yeah, I was sort of like, all right, if that were the sort of thing I'd be interested in, then I could see that being a really great detail, you know? I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just not into the whole Jedi hunting thing and the like, here's all that. Like, I just don't like it. I don't like it. It's not what I want from a Star Wars story. If it is, that's great. They did it really well. But like, and then also like at the end, you know, where like Wade and Sully or whatever, she's like, Wade, I'm just like what? Like, I don't know. It felt, it's that thing that to me feels very emotionally manipulative. And for me, it just makes me irritated and kind of roll my eyes. However, if you're here for that, then I think it's probably great, I guess. So, you know, whatevs.
Isn't that Star Wars like lore though, that happened? Like, it's a big deal
Yeah, it is.
that they all got wiped out.
Yeah, and so here they are, you know, this story is kind of telling more of that story. It's just like the first part of the story, the whole Order 66, like just, I won't even get started. But it's just, it never made any sense to me. And the idea of the Jedi more gradually dying out, like from, if we talk about like the original trilogy, and then sort of thinking about what it would have been like leading up to that, you know, you're all that's left of your ancient religion. It doesn't, I can't square that line and that, right? And so it's like, I do think that given what the prequels set up, that I think the animated shows did a fantastic job of dealing with all that. But it's just not the part that I enjoy. I love the lightsabers, you know? I'm here for that much more. So, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I like the Tara Sanub reference, and I like the way I felt it was done. And Ashley, tell me if I'm wrong. Is like, to me, the perfect Easter egg is one where without knowing the deeper reference, you still just get, oh, these are dead Jedi. That's a
Right.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you get the reference, it adds a little more, but it doesn't take away if you didn't know it. Like, did you feel
Right.
frustrated that you didn't know who those people were? Or was it just
No.
like, yeah,
No, not at all.
I agree with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you want something to be watchable and to someone to be able to
Right.
appreciate the gist of what's going on without knowing all of the details. But that if you
Yeah.
add the details, it adds a little bit of extra kind of texture and meaning to you.
right.
Well, you just
will-
start to think, I'm like, was that Wade guy anybody that, or was
Yeah.
that a character for the show, or was he somebody I was supposed to know?
Right. I literally Googled it. I was like, who is Sully?
Okay.
And what?
Yeah.
But I
That's
didn't
awesome.
come up with much.
Okay.
Yeah, and to be clear, I like Tara Sanoob because I think they didn't hit us over the head. It was just like, oh, look, Jedi are dead.
Sure, yeah.
Here, yeah, a red shirt died.
Right.
And I think the fact that like a group that saw themselves as undercover helpers, not soldiers, had to go into combat, one of them died, that's enough to be sad. Having her look and watch him crash for 3 seconds
Oh, yeah.
while she's being chased, let alone the whole like Wade, like
Yeah,
that felt emotionally manipulative to me.
Okay,
that,
yeah.
that I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
God damn it! I really liked this episode in the moment.
Yes.
I wasn't bothered by it. I was like, oh no, Wade,
Mhm.
character who doesn't matter.
Like,
Let's
whatever.
go. What's happening next? Yeah.
Wade, you'll come
Okay,
back
I'm
as
not
Deadpool.
supposed
It'll
to
be
care.
fine.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, not that Wade.
Wikipedia, Riki points out something that I didn't even notice, but I don't know if you
Oh.
did, but that's kind of awesome. That the Inquisitors had in their kind of conference room a rack of lightsabers that could well be a, General Grievous isn't around to hoard them anymore,
Right.
so maybe now they all go there, which would
That
be
seems
I would
likely.
totally do that. I would put them down my stairwell to my basement.
Yeah. See, like that would have been enough for me. You know,
Mhm.
like I didn't need like all the preserved corpses.
Yeah. Courtney points out that there's kind of creep factor that Vader is storing all of them, like kind of a hunter. And she says at least he didn't mount the heads, which I would agree would be much worse.
Yeah. I think it's just adding to show like how messed up he is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I,
like
feel
it.
like it would be marginally worse, I guess, but to me,
Yeah.
it feels like the same. That is how it feels to me, you know. And
Yeah.
I mean, I have the experience of going in places and seeing them like that, and like it creeps me out, and it makes me turn to the dark side. But
Yeah.
you know
That's
what I
fair.
mean?
That's fair. I mean, we know that's kind of end goal for you, whatever happens. So like the world's pointing you in that direction, and me, all of us.
Yeah, Rigi said what I was honestly just thinking, like they were going to do tests on them or something for, like,
Yeah, that-
like in the cloning. Like that's
Sure.
what I thought they were keeping him in
Oh,
that
okay.
preserving goo for.
Actually makes
That would make
some
sense.
more sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I was like,
yeah, I think that could be a good point. And that's one where like, I hate that we now have multiple stories that are all being set up to be able to justify what I think is one of the worst plot decisions Star Wars ever made in terms of, Palpatine coming back because he was cloned. But
Mhm.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Here's the thing about the Palpatine line, though. Like, we don't have to get too deep into it, but
Uh-huh.
that was in the Legends canon, right? That was like they adapted that, right? Like, not
Oh, yeah.
not literally, but like that's a thing that happened, right? There was all this cloning. There was Luke, and like, right? So it's not like it came out of nowhere in a way,
Right.
I mean, I was
No,
like,
that-
of course he's coming back. Of course, somehow.
That's definitely true. Yeah. There's, I think, 128 Legends novels. So pretty much everything is in there at some point or another.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do we think of, first of all, let's just go into like Reva. What do you think of Reva in this episode? Because we do get a lot more of her. And like
I
her
really enjoyed her interrogation stuff. I thought
Mhm.
she was really doing very well with that scene.
Yeah, I really liked the way she, like, it's clear to us that it's false, but like I think she's just on that line of like, oh, Leia, I don't want to have to do this to you, you know.
Mhm.
Well, also, and again, this is something that's never been explicitly spelled out too often in on screen, although it appears in a lot of the canon novels, is this idea that, the Sith actually, like Darkseid users, their power increases in the presence of other people's negative emotions. Their anger, their hatred, their fear, their torment makes them stronger.
Mhm.
And I definitely got that feeling of like Reva was like wanting to get the information, but also like she was enjoying and getting empowered by Leia's, being tortured, which was
Right.
Yeah.
hard to watch, but I thought really well done.
Well, and then frustrated when she realized that she was like just getting played, right?
Yeah.
Like, which
Yeah.
also, by the way, that was like exactly what I thought she was going to be like, Dantooine, they're on Dantooine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was another one of those moments where I feel like it was so perfect to the spirit of the character while also breaking canon. Because like part of the canon that's set up, especially in the Rebels show, but then in A New Hope, is like Leia has for the most part been above suspicion, you know,
Right.
and that this is when like, you know, she's like, Vader, you can't hold me. I'm a senator. I'm pure. Knowing she has this record of already being arrested, like to me, it
Right.
doesn't have to fit.
I know.
Rebels also kind of starts to break that by, although at the same time, like Vader doesn't buy it.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, you are a traitor and porch of the Rebel Alliance, or he switches those. But, you know.
Take her away.
Exactly.
I did also love, especially because it's something Leia herself does later, the way Tala, like Riki and I especially have talked about this a lot on another part of the Star Wars Universe podcast, that like the Empire is a great example of like one of the problems with very authoritarian power structures is often like if you're the person who yells enough and who most like claims that you have power, other people are going to do what you want because they're afraid, and that a lot of things fall apart because of that. And so the way that Tala was able to just be like, no, I'm in command. How stupid are you? You know, she went full on, I'm Karen, let me talk to your manager.
Yeah.
And the other guy folded. And I was like, yeah,
I loved it.
It was so great to watch from her. And it was like, yeah, that is how things would work in this power structure.
Would thrive.
There were a lot of things that just I don't know, like that sort of almost worked for me, but it just didn't feel, I don't know, there was something, you know, and I wonder whether it's like, I don't know, almost like assuming a certain level of like misogyny and patriarchy from the Empire. It plays a little odd, you know, and it's the sort of thing where if like this was the first thing, I think it would feel a little different. You know, and that's not to say that it's bad. I don't have a problem with it. It's just, I mean, you know, she's like, not like, let me speak to your manager. She's like, I am your manager, or like, you know, but, and
sir. I was like, yeah, call her sir.
Right, exactly. And I was kind of in that last scene where the person was like, this is not your station. And then she goes off with him, and she comes back. I'm like, I don't buy that he would just let her go. I'm like, oh, she knocked him out. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, right? For sure.
Right. Yeah, like I totally believe that the first guy would back down.
Right.
You know, I think, and you're right. Like it's not the Karen thing's a joke here. She's claiming the power.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that she can do that. I think it's not, to me, it's not at all coincidental that like we have her, Reva, and Leia all playing these important roles in this episode. They're all about claiming their power in different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see that it's. I just don't like prequels. Like this just keep like every time we talk, and like I want to be so excited about the show. There's a lot about it I like, and it may well be also that this is gonna be one of those things where the first time I watch it, I'm just like, this isn't what this doesn't fit my idea. And that's my fault. That's on me. That's fine. And so the second time I watch it, I'm probably going to like it a lot more.
Sure.
Like, I think Mad Max Fury Road is one of the best, like, dystopia action movies I have ever seen. I think it is a very bad Mad Max movie.
Because it's like not a Mad Max movie, basically.
Yeah, not the start. And they've admitted that. They've said that they wrote it as a separate movie.
Yeah.
And then the producers were like, well, you're known for Mad Max. Can we, like, stick Mad Max into the story somehow?
Right.
That's a tangent, but like the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, right, this is an amazing movie. Just forget about the Mad Max part. And I think like once I know, like, okay, yep, this is the canon now, brain adjusted, because there is a lot to enjoy, and this one at least was fast paced enough. There was enough going on. You got to see Obi-Wan doing some fun stuff. Like I thought the water scene was really great. Even though the physics of it,
it didn't make any sense. It was cool, but like I was like logistically, I was like, but he was holding it here, and they were there, and then he stopped holding it, and it hit them before it hit them. What? But
I think we've seen Jedi like push like bodies of water before.
But it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It really just doesn't make physics sense, even with the Force. But like, it's okay. It's okay. The idea was there. You know.
Yeah. I was more on. I think now the entire place is flooded and gone, but.
That also potentially, yes.
I was just like, hey, this reminds me of Jaws 3. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is that the one where the shark has enough memory of them and it wants revenge personally?
No, that's
3.
Jaws
This
the
time it's
Revenge,
personal.
that's 4.
Oh, 4?
Jaws 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jaws 3 is the one where they're at SeaWorld.
That's right. It's all like underground
Dennis
stuff.
Quaid, yeah.
Yep. Classic. At the very end, and this is again, the New Hope story, when Reva says, no, Lord Vader, I let them escape.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe her? Or is she
No.
saying that to not get killed in that moment?
Not to get killed, but at least she was smart enough to put that tractor in the drone. When I was like, it's on Leia. Obviously, she didn't put it on Obi-Wan Kenobi, and she's lying, which is it's risky, girl. That's risky. But it was very smart to put that in the droid, and the fact that nobody's thinking about that. Ken was like, why don't they have droid detectors, like bug detectors? You would think in this futuristic thing. And I was like, well, Ken, it's not the future. It's a galaxy a long, long time ago.
Yep.
I got the eye roll for this century. He's like, never mind.
Well, this was actually the episode 4 Easter egg that stuck out the most to me, because that's literally what Vader does in A New Hope, right?
Okay.
And so, like, I mean, I kind of believe her, but I also kind of don't believe her. But like maybe she's telling the truth.
There's a failsafe.
It feels like this is this where Vader gets the idea to do that in A New Hope, which is like kind of cool, but also like, I don't know. I found the scene with Vader and the whole bunch of Inquisitors just like, it was just weird. It just felt weird. I don't know. There's a lot of things in this that just feel weird to me, and it's because I watched the original trilogy first, and then I watched the other stuff, and then this and that, and like now here we are, and some things just don't feel right to me. And that's fine. You know, if they feel right to other people, that's cool. You know, I'm still going to complain about them, but I'm not going to tell someone else they're wrong for enjoying it. You know?
Yeah. I'm not thinking that like about it like that, because I don't know as much. So I have that, you know, that's like the gift of not having that prior knowledge of any of that stuff for it to bother me.
Yeah. No, which I think is great. Like, and I
mean, it's not The Mandalorian. Like that. Obviously, it's not my favorite show, and I'm looking forward to Ahsoka. The Mandalorian is much better than this.
Yeah.
And almost Boba Fett was, because The Mandalorian took over halfway through, and then it was still awesome. I don't know. What?
No. What? I said I thought the other parts of Book of Boba Fett were the better part, but you know, it's to each their own.
Of course you did.
Their own. Of course I did. They were more.
We're not talking about you right now. It's my turn to talk.
Fair.
Jesus.
He's not appearing on this podcast.
Robert Rodriguez?
Jesus.
Exactly. Moving on.
Oh, yeah. I don't even think of that as a person. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. He did exist.
Probably.
He was just a carpenter.
He's just dead. But his ideas live. Not going there. I'll talk about my Christology some other time. No, I just want to say a quick note, though, on that. At some later point, myself, Paul, and Ashley, and possibly one or two others, are going to do an episode on toxicity in fandom. And I just want to say, like, I really appreciate the way we're all talking about this here, because I think, to me, and we talked a little bit about this before, but I think it's kind of worth reiterating, like, it is awful and terrible that there's so much hate being directed at some of the actors, especially it's being often done on racist lines and or sexist lines or ageist lines. All that's nonsense, and I appreciate how much the Star Wars community is speaking out about it. We actually got a pretty terrible email to this podcast, which, you know, in some weird way, it was like they were saying you're too woke, and I was like, hell yeah, I am. I'll you know, they called me a social justice warrior. No, I'm a social justice bard. But either way, you know, that's a title I'll proudly claim. But I think that sometimes the response to that, which I don't put these two as equal because I think it's a response, but I think can be also problematic, is when it becomes, you have to love this character, you have to love this show, or else you're all the bad things that some of the people are, you know? And like, Paul, you and I talked about this before. Lots of people don't like the character of Rey Skywalker for a lot of really terrible reasons. You have some, you know, more, I don't think your feelings on that character, but you have some dislikes of the Last Jedi movie for totally different reasons. And I think the same thing we're talking about here, like, you know, all of us have our own varied opinions on all these things. And I think it's important to hold space for, let's absolutely talk about the racism. Let's talk about the sexism. Let's talk about the garbage takes. maybe when we're saying, hey, this is really racist, is not the time to say, okay, but actually I don't like the character. Like, no, let's just talk about the racism or whatever. But also, it doesn't mean we all have to love everything, and that's all. And I just appreciate the way we can all talk about that. And I thought I was praising Paul, but he's giving me a look like I've said something wrong. So I'll hand the win back over.
No, like I think there's a lot going on. I like what you just said a lot. For the most part. Not that I have specific quibbles with anything you just said, but okay. I do find it irritating that like certain criticisms or that disliking something, like that it feels like it needs to be justified, or that there's assumption that it ties in with some specific group of trolls, basically, who are very vocal and aren't necessarily even the majority of people who have a problem with something, you know?
Yeah.
And
I mean, as a Christian, I have no idea what that's like.
It goes the other way too, though, because I got attacked a little bit for liking Mom too much, which was, for all the time I've been doing this, that's not something I've experienced before, because I guess I've never really 100% liked something. I always had something to say. And even if there were problems with it, it was something that I was 100% willing to look by, because it didn't bother me at all. I enjoyed everything about it. Right. And someone even went and like on iTunes was like, oh, she didn't let me, you know, I had a difference of opinion and I got shut down. It's like, no, you said your piece. And I responded back. And his answer was, you're just supposed to listen to what we say, just because we want to say it. Like, you don't have to do anything with that information, but like, I needed you to know this, and that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not just going to sit here and take it and say, oh, so sorry you felt that way, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to give you my opinion back, because that's how you have a conversation. Nothing that you said changed my mind.
I feel like they're missing the point of a podcast.
Strange.
Yeah, like it's very easy to start your own podcast. That's the thing.
And then they start to spiral. It's just like we all have internal inside jokes with a lot of the listeners for a while. One of ours is the filthy casual thing that listeners created, which is fun. And that was something he was like, how dare you call us that, who didn't watch all the WandaVision? And then when I told him, like, oh no, like the listeners, it's a joke. You know, some people get it. Yeah. And he was like, well, you shouldn't have inside jokes because it leaves people out and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what is happening right now, sir?
I don't think that's a great point. And we'll get more into that conversation when we do this is why we're going to talk about what toxic fandom can look like. Because
that's just a drop in the water glass, man.
Yeah. I think part of what I'm seeing is that a lot of toxicity, there are trolls out there. Absolutely. There's racist and sexist and homophobes, but, a lot of folks didn't even realize you're being toxic, and that's kind of what we'll talk about. But anyway, back to this. Ashley, it sounds like you and I are kind of in the same boat, that she did place a tracker. She didn't necessarily let them go, but she figured out it was a very good failsafe and a very good story to tell when her mentor and boss is choking her out.
When no one else is looking out for you, you got to protect your own blind side.
I like it. Paul, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a reason to assume either way. Like, clearly there was a tracker there, right? Okay, yeah. Good call. And either, like, there was a reason she did that. I find it a little sus that, like, she actually let them go, because it felt like she was kind of trying to catch them, you know? Yeah. But maybe not that hard? I don't know. I mean, she only blew up the other ship, and, like... I don't know. I mean, she didn't use the spinning lightsaber twirly helicopter thing. Sorry, Ricky.
No,
right. But, you know, I mean, I can buy it that it's either sort of quick thinking to sort of cover herself, and that she'd already kind of pre-laid a plan for what if this goes sideways, you know? Right. But maybe she is like kind of semi-bluffing here, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed.
You poker players should know better.
Well, I don't think I'd want to play poker with someone who uses the Force.
Right. Would not be very effective. The thing that I kind of was questioning in the Reva Leia scene was, like, she's clearly trying to get in her mind, right?
Right.
With the Force. The fact that they have this many Force users right next to Leia and none of them can sense her Force sensitivity, which is supposed to be kind of off the charts, even if she doesn't actually do anything with it until, I guess, Empire Strikes Back a little bit, right? And then a little bit in Return of the Jedi, but really only a little. It feels a bit it's just like, okay, sure.
Yeah, it felt off to me in a couple of ways. One was like, why can't they sense it? Two, like, so many people who have this deep connection to Anakin, like, I don't know how much of like the Force connection is a DNA connection, but like, it feels like they would connect to her in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But also, unless Reva is actually quite bad at it, I don't know how Leia is resisting her Force probing of her mind without using the Force to some extent to push back. Like, and so
Right.
even that alone would say, like, I would want there to be some moment where Reva's like, "What are you doing, girl? Like,
Yeah.
how are you keeping me out?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's like their whole jam is like they go around trying to catch Force sensitive children and Jedi.
Yeah.
Right?
So like
She
it
sucks at her job.
right, unless it really is some kind of big fancy double cross thing that we don't know about yet, which
Hero turn.
again is okay. All right, here's a question. Do people anticipate a hero turn from Reva more like because she's a woman? Like, do we see that more in terms of female villains, like more often? Because like I think about like Batman villains, and like how many of the female villains in Batman are just like straight up villains, and how many of them are like much more sympathetic and have more not like hero turns, but sort of like hero co-op / like anti-hero turns.
This is actually a topic that we got into a bit with Emily Sissel in Superhero Ethics a while back. Yeah, because especially in Batman, a lot of the villains are either they have a hero turn or they're villains, but for a good reason.
Right.
You know, Poison Ivy wants to save the environment. Catwoman is, getting revenge for evil bosses. But also it's because often they're set up to be love interests, and they can't
Right.
be a love interest if they're just totally evil. I think, and certainly again in the episode that I hit this all out of order, that's my fault. But once the episode with Riki and Sarah goes up, that was a topic we got it.
Oh, good.
We did get into the idea of could Reva being set up for a hero turn. I'm not sure we looked at it. I'm not sure if we were thinking about that because she's a woman. I think the fact that she's a woman, not only to say a woman of color, and we've had very few women of color of any kind, let alone as villains or heroes, that there's kind of a strong push both ways of like, it'd kind of be awesome to actually, if she winds up being a hero, but also awesome to have her be a villain. And I think people just see that different ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a part of it, but my sense at least is it's not as much because of it's harder to imagine a woman as a villain, though I think that is definitely a part of it. That's why I'm on team. I want her to be a villain. But I think it's because we just haven't had many strong women in the show for the most part, especially women of color, that there's kind of a real hunger like on both sides of that. But yeah, who knows? I don't know. I'd be
I
curious
think
if
you
people
guys laid it out saying it's going to follow the movies because she would technically be like the Vader of the group,
Right.
and he would kind of be the Sidious. So I could see.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That could be sort of the part 6. I don't know.
I mean, because the only one who really has a
work.
hero turn,
Right.
the only one who really has a hero turn in the original trilogy is Lando, and
Well,
having
Vader.
her follow.
Well, Anakin.
Well, okay, Vader. That's fair. Fair.
I
Okay,
mean, kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal.
but for him, it's at the very end.
Yeah.
But
but
agreed.
as long as you get there.
I will point out that almost every black character in Star Wars started as a villain or some manner of antagonist and did something heroic, especially if you include Vader as like voiced by James Earl Jones.
Yeah, that's pretty horrible.
You know,
but
there's
you're
a
right.
Very interesting.
stormtrooper, there's a stormtrooper, there's Lando. You know, it's like, and I mean, it's not a long list. You know,
Finn.
embarrassingly so. But like, it's sort of like, can there maybe occasionally be a black character who's like just a hero from birth or like just a villain and is just a villain? Like, I don't know. It's not a big ask.
Yeah.
I feel.
God, yeah,
And
no, like, God, I hate that that's true because now I can't think of. I mean, you're right; it's a very short list to begin with, but
And I think when we talk about, racism and sexism in sort of the fandom, which isn't the main gist of today's topic, right? But, I think we have to acknowledge that, like, some of the movies, there was a lot of racism, especially if I'm
yeah.
looking at you, Phantom Menace, more than anything else, and sexism. And, the first movie was made in 1977. Leia was like a very strong character, right? Like, so in some ways, they were a little bit maybe ahead of their time in some ways, although maybe 77, I don't know, things were a little different. But, like,
yeah.
I don't.
She still needs to get saved, though. She's still the princess.
Sure,
who
yeah,
has to
exactly.
get
She's still the
saved.
princess. Although she's like nice rescue, you know,
Yeah.
and she's like
But that's
sassing
what
them
the-
and
that's
like
what, you know,
she's like into the
blue
garbage chute,
skies
you know.
want, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, she
she's
is literally
not-
damseled. So
She's not just the damsel,
Right.
but she is damsel.
Exactly.
She is, except for Mon Mothma at the very end, the only female character. Well, and Aunt Beru at the like.
Sure.
I don't
for,
think
like,
she. I don't think she ever says a word to another female character in the thing.
No.
And like the thought of her climbing into an X-wing at the end is never brought up. So,
Right.
Yeah. It's,
Mhm.
no, and I think that's a point. And I'll admit, I'd never realized that about the black characters in Star Wars, and I think it's a very good point. That, yeah, even like I'm thinking Clone Wars, I'm thinking Rebels.
I mean, Saw
even,
Gerrera is like a good guy, but also like kind of sketch in some ways,
Right.
you know.
But I think
Well,
he's
I
sister,
want her to stay
maybe?
like that. Like, I don't want her to be a hero. I want her to do like one good thing and then be like,
Okay.
you guys, screw you guys. I'm out of here, gonna do my own thing.
Right.
Yeah. Like if it was something like, yeah, Saw Gerrera, by the way, in the Clone Wars, I think is white, or at least is very much less light skinned than Forrest Whitaker is.
Yeah, I think it's kind of racially ambiguous, but I thought he was kind of more like light skinned black, but
Yeah,
that
I think it's
also
probably
is
true.
you know somewhat white.
Yeah.
I mean, within the context of the Star Wars universe, race isn't the same thing, right?
Even Carl Weathers' character in The Mandalorian.
Oh yeah,
Like he goes bad pretty quick, and then he becomes
Exactly.
good again toward the end.
exactly.
To what you're saying, Ashley,
Oh,
I
sorry.
think you propose a good possibility in that, like, if towards the end Reva has realized Vader's not gonna welcome her back, she's screwed up too much, or she's done something to challenge him, and she knows that she has to go on the run, and so she's kind of like, "F you, Vader. I'm gonna help Obi-Wan and Leia." As an F you to Vader, you know,
Like
I'd be fine with her becoming like a Ventress character, but even Ventress gets kind of good. I don't want that for her. I want her to be dark side. So yeah, so if she kind of helps our heroes, but it's for her own selfish, stay alive, stay ambitious reasons, that I'd be okay with. I don't want her joining the rebellion, you know?
right.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
aside from the fact that like, how does that gonna make any sense? Like down the line, you know what I mean? But yeah, I could see her
we
taking
think
more
she
of a
might be
Ventress
one of
turn.
those children who ran from Order 66 at the beginning. Do we still
Oh,
think that?
100%.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I think there's like almost no doubt.
And I realized we had a listener comment pointed out something that I was saying that wouldn't actually make sense. Because I was saying I thought maybe Anakin recognized something in her, or even maybe she like turned on the other kids when Anakin and the 501st came to the Jedi Temple.
Right.
But then I remember that the fan pointed out to me that she actually talks about being on the streets
Yeah.
for a while.
Okay.
So I think, and I think clearly she was in the Jedi Temple, she escaped, she got out, and only then later was found by
Yeah.
Vader.
Cool. Makes
So.
sense.
There's a few comments. Do we want to read any of the comments?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Go
You wanna-
for it.
We've got Riki saying, "Why use the Force when you can use the sass?" Excellent point, I think.
Yeah, I think it's super true.
Dr. Kyle Berkeley says, "I'm enjoying her as a villain for 3 reasons. She's a black woman, she's strong-willed, and she's not sexualized, which is very rare, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I think you can find her attractive, but like they're not trying to put that front and center. It's just, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's very, and even the attraction you have, I mean, she's a beautiful actress and a beautiful character. I think what's attractive is her power, not
Right.
like any tight uniform she's wearing. Like, I have no
Right.
idea what
Yeah.
her body type is because it doesn't matter, and they're not focusing on that.
Yeah, her uniform,
love
I'm like,
that they
I
did
want one of
that.
those, you know, not
Yeah.
like...
With Valkyrie. That was like, she's like, no, I want like a real, you know, outfit.
Not
And
super
it's-
cleavagey, and
Mhm. And
Yeah.
I loved how they did that too. I like that we're moving towards that.
definitely. Courtney says, I think her strong will is part of people's problems, but I'm lapping it up. Love her. I think, yeah, that's very true. I think there's an awful lot of sexism and misogyny in the way women characters are treated, but especially, you know, sort of misogynoir, like, you know, towards how black, you know, the whole idea of like the uppity black woman. And she, you know, I think that's triggering people. And I think that's great, you know, because I think they're not used to seeing a black woman in that role. And there's definitely, you know, I think, and this is also where kind of some of that toxicity we're talking in comes in. And this is where, and again, it's, I think this is hard to talk about because I think I don't want to paint with a broad brush and say everybody who doesn't like Reva is secretly a sexist and a racist. But I do think an awful lot of people who don't like Reva, there is some racism and sexism that's influencing their opinion of her in ways they don't understand or don't realize. And like, even I've realized that, you know, like I didn't like the Wonder Woman movie that much, the first Wonder Woman movie, in part because, and someone helped point me out to me, like, yeah, I was bringing some of my own implicit bias to how I was viewing that character. But that's where it gets hard. It's like, I want to say that to a lot, but I also don't think that's true of everybody. You know, I think you can be very aware of those topics and also just be like, yeah, I just don't like this character for whatever reason. So.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, for me, I feel like there's things where something sits a little oddly, and it's because of the things that have gone before. Like, Star Wars has historically used various accents to denote certain things, whether it's, you know, the Trade Federation, which is a horrible, you know, racist portrayal, you know, or Jar Jar, or what's his face, in that same movie. But then also, you know, you've got like the British, and the British kind of was supposed to denote villain, but it was like, actually it was more of a core system thing, right? Because Kenobi also had the British. And like, you know, here she's speaking in a very, I think, Kyle says she's also from Baltimore, right? And I'm not sure if it's like a Baltimore accent specifically, but it feels very kind of like, you know, AAVE, right? Like, she sounds black, right? To the extent that that is a thing. And there are like people speak in different ways. And I think that's the sort of thing that, like, when people have, in general, there's going to be like sort of, I don't know, a reaction or like an impression that people make based on how people sound, you know, and a lot of that's bigotry, right? But a lot of it's also just the experiences that people have had. And so I do think, I think like intellectually, I appreciate that they're doing that, right? That they're not like, oh, can you sound more white, you know? But like, because that's like a note, right, that Hollywood gives, or they do the opposite, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that they're like going for that. I think a conscious way. But it does sit a little like with previous things that have gone before. It just, you know, I don't think. I think it's a little different than like how Lando sounded or like John Boyega sounded. You know, I'm not sure. You know, I'd have to like go back and listen more. I have a pet theory that there is a system in Star Wars where everybody speaks with Boston accents. That both John Ratzenberger's character from Empire Strikes Back and Donnie Yen's character from Rogue One both come from. Okay. Donnie Yen also has like kind of like a Boston, because he grew up in Boston, but also Hong Kong. So
I mean, so Matt Damon has to play somebody from that at some point.
I mean, yes, Bill please, preferably a thespian. But
I don't remember what his character's name was, but Bill Burr.
Oh right, yeah, right, yeah, Bill Burr. Thank you. That's an important. Yeah, that's like the most visible and audible. Like, oh yeah, he sounds like he's from Boston. You know.
Yeah. Dr. Kyle says that he's from Baltimore. He can pick up an accent. He can pick up their accent from a mile away. Dr. Kyle, you've just volunteered to be on a podcast at some point about The Wire, where we're just going to ask you about the accuracy of different characters' Boston accents. Because the fact that two of the lead characters are British actors threw me. And I do hear what you're saying, Paul. And I think that's. I feel like one of the things this to me, I think, is kind of at the heart and soul of a lot of the fan. You know, arguing back and forth about like, oh, you know, we're not being racist. We just want, you know, the thing of our youth, you know? Right. And I think a lot of this stuff, Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, was created at a time when most of the stories were told by white men and most of the characters were either white men, in the case of comic books, mostly Jewish men, which is important, but still men who are at least what's considered white today and often at that time. And even the characters of color were created by those folks and in that kind of a world. And in all of them, we're starting to see like, wait a minute, maybe let's expand the world to have more voices, to have more accents, to have more characters. And you're right, it is going to be a change. It's not in a literal way. People can say like, this doesn't sound like Star Wars to me. I think to me, my response is often like, you know, that's when it's time to let the past die, as Yoda says in The Last Jedi, you know, like, that there's some, I should quote Last Jedi, I try to convince Paul of something. That's
yeah. You're not helping here. No, but I think you're making an excellent point.
Yeah, but like that I think, and again, it's not a like, you know, F you don't get to enjoy what you liked as a kid, but like, I think there's a challenge that you have, kind of like when I say with Wonder Woman, or like even more so Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, I think, challenged a lot of fans, especially male fans, because her story is one not of discovering her power, but of just deciding to no longer hide her power, which is a story that I think a lot more women can relate to than men or non-binary folk, though by no means all in any case. And I think so for people have to be like, okay, yeah, let me see if I can better understand the story, even if I don't relate to it in the first part. And I think, yeah, Reva, the first episode, like her voice it didn't sound like Star Wars to me in quite the same way I'm used to, until I had to kind of like sit with that and be like, no, this does sound like Star Wars. It's just a part of Star Wars we haven't seen yet, and that's okay.
I do think it's really important to like when having like a particular emotional reaction to something, just take a moment, take a beat, and think like, why do I feel this way? And it doesn't mean like you're wrong for feeling that way, right? I mean, first of all, you feel how you feel. It's fine to feel that way. It's just like if you then discover, oh, maybe that's like a little bit of a prejudice. That's okay. Just instead of then being like, let me go send hateful messages, like maybe be like, let me work on me a little bit. Or be like, you know what, I just don't like this, and that's okay also, and that's fine. And in terms of letting your childhood memories, like, be what they were, I'm gonna have to say that George Lucas is the one who ruined the original trilogy by literally going in and changing the thing. And that's the only way you can watch it, like, online, is all changed, all mess up. I can't watch the rest of Return of the Jedi there. I have to go to YouTube. Which is fine. I love YouTube. Hi, YouTube.
Yub-nub forever.
Yub-nub for life.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, I mean, the history of like kind of messing with this original trilogy, it goes back to the original creator, Yeah. It's like, thank the maker or not. Like, so like, it's not like the first time. It won't be the last time. That is one of the things about all these hyper-connected universes, like all these things kind of do affect each other. And it's like, I don't know. At the same time, it's like, maybe we can just enjoy the ones we enjoy, not love the ones we don't love. And like, that's okay. And like,
see them as a gift. It's just a gift.
Right. And it's like when you get a gift you don't really like, you're like, oh, okay, thanks. That's okay. It's okay.
Take a beat.
And like I said, I feel a bit like after last week when I was complaining about the canon stuff and you both were like, no, it's fine. Yeah. I feel a little vindicated at some of your canon concerns this week. But there's the thing. That's why we have a podcast. To blow it off a little bit and then be able to be like, yeah, so that's what we feel. What do you feel? And that actually gets into the... Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to speak to your concern from last week because I did rewatch A New Hope. And like, I totally feel where you're coming from. And I also think it's important to be like, okay, I don't think this show literally contradicts the original story that much, right?
Right.
But the thing is like, you had so long to kind of mentally fill in some of those gaps that then when a story comes along and it's like filling them and you're like, no, that's not what goes there. Like that is a very understandable reaction. And I don't think you should feel bad about that. I don't think you should apologize for it. I hate the fact that we have a climate where you kind of feel like the need to sort of be like, but I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm just saying like that, but you know what I mean? But I mean, I feel like that comes from a good place, a good-hearted place, but I find it irritating that like, we always have to clarify that sort of thing.
So this is going to get off on a very different tangent. I apologize. We don't have to stay on this, but I'll just say this once. I made a joke earlier about like, I'm a Christian. I get that feeling. And that was a joke, but I kind of mean it seriously. And to me, that's also part of why I do feel okay apologizing for it a bit. Okay. What I mean that is like, that's a fandom that I'm a part of where a lot of my fellow fans are really, really toxic.
Right.
Not in like, I write bad things online way, but like, I start wars and slaughter millions and attack the U.S. government kind of a way, because they're fans of the same Carpenter that I'm a fan of. And like, I do feel like because of that, I have some responsibility to be like, yes, I'm speaking on behalf of this thing that you may have been attacked by other people who speak on behalf of. So I want to be a little clear that I'm not that thing, and also that I take some responsibility for it, and it's on me to try to change that thing.
Okay.
I feel somewhat the same way as a fan. In that, like, I see people out there, both the creators of the stuff that I love, but also fans who've been deeply hurt, like both like just, online stuff, but like, harassed and stalked and mental stuff by the evils of fandom, of toxic fandom. And so, so I think for me, that's why I feel like it's very important for me to kind of clearly state, I acknowledge that what I'm saying could sound like some really bad stuff you've heard. I'm not that. And while I'm saying it, I'm also going to call out that because I agree with you. I'm annoyed by it. I find it irritating, but I think the only way to stop it is to help like do conversations like we're doing, where we're making it clear that like, no, we are the dominant voices in fandom. We've just been too silent and let these others take over the conversation for too long.
I guess I just don't believe in fandom any more than I believe in religions. So that's so
fair.
like I don't consider myself like a fan. Like I like things, I dislike things, I watch things. But I hear where you're coming from, and I respect that point of view, even if I don't share it.
Ashley, the two of us have been talking for a long time. What do you have to say about all that?
I'm not that deep. That's sorry. I'm not that far. I'm just
all right. So talk to us about how awesome the lightsabers looked.
Let's talk about lightsabers.
We already did.
I do have a complaint about the lightsabers.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, time to complain about a lightsaber.
Okay.
All right. Paul?
Yes.
Do I need to tell you what 30-second clip to pull out for a TikTok of this episode?
Here's my thing about the lightsabers. Like, why doesn't... They don't cut anybody in half. They don't cut off any arms. Like, they're just, like, scorching the armor. Like, I don't know. I felt like it should have been more destructive when the stormtroopers were getting hit by lightsabers. I thought it looked freaking awesome. I mean, it looked
I can't
amazing.
handle the dead bodies floating in the goo in the basement, but I want to see them cut the stormtroopers in half. What is happening?
Yeah, I don't like looking at hunting trophies, but when you're gonna kill someone, like, it just...
Disney!
It's just, yeah. I feel like they're just like, these things dismember people in every other episode. What's going on here? Suddenly Stormtrooper armor works now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's
maybe they got it souped up. We don't know.
Maybe. The only thing I could say is, like, maybe Kenobi was trying not to dismember anybody.
Yeah, he did in the last episode. And did this shit.
So here's the thing. We keep being told that the terrible, horrible, very good, no good, bad day that happened to the planet of Mandalore happened sometime under the Empire, but we don't know when. What if it just happened and this one group of stormtroopers got Mandalorian armor type?
There you go.
Okay, yeah, this I way too hard.
Their armor is a plastic Beskar blend.
Yeah.
I do love that she got the chick got out of there just by pulling his head down, the mask down, and then just pushing the stormtrooper back. What's her name? When she was getting away. Yeah, Tala. She was just like pook, pock, pock, and was just out. I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
You guys are the worst.
The fight choreography was great. I just want to see some dismembered stormtroopers. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's because we got the laser fence before that did such a thorough dismembering that Ashley was so into that maybe we pulled back a little bit.
Yeah.
I do want to start wrapping us up anyway, because both because we had a good conversation, but also for those of us who are watching live, the Ms. Marvel live watch on Scener is about to get started in a couple minutes. We're probably going to overlap with them a little bit, and that's fine. If you haven't seen Ms. Marvel, it's a fantastic, fantastic show. At least I think so. Paul will have some things to complain about.
I mostly enjoyed it. I'll say that.
There we go. There we go.
Her shoes.
I took a driving test in New Jersey, and I just got to say, I don't know. But when there was the thing about 100K, and then she's like 80,000, I'm like, I felt represented there. Because I was like, you do not round up to 100,000 on social media. I'm sorry. You get like a silver plaque on YouTube when you get 100,000. You don't just round up to that. You got to get there.
So what Paul is trying to do is, without actually telling you, announce that he's changing his channel name from Zen Madman to Zen Misanthrope. So just take that in mind. That being said...
What do you think a madman is?
I mean, also true.
But I'm very zen about it.
Okay, moving on. Anyway, last comments from either of you about Obi-Wan.
I'm kind of excited for our next conversation. God, I hope you guys like the next episode better.
I like this one. I said I really like this one.
Next time, I'm going to make a list of bullet points of the things I liked the most, and I'll lead with those.
Well,
and then
no, I
after
need
that
to
5 minutes out of the
sprinkle
way,
it
the
in.
next
No,
45
it
minutes.
needs to be peppered throughout the whole thing.
Oh, peppered throughout. Okay, I can
Yes,
do that.
please.
I can do
So we
that.
can go back.
Yeah. I will say there were a lot of things I really enjoyed here. I thought that the moment at the end with Leia and Kenobi, even in the context of the whole wait, like I thought that was really beautiful. I just liked seeing how small, how her tiny little hand in his hand,
Yeah.
you know. And yeah, I actually thought that she was really good in this episode, and that the interaction between her and Reva really did deliver in my eyes.
Yeah.
I was disappointed that we didn't get any Vader and Leia. Maybe that's to come. Maybe that's just something they don't want to do, because then it is like, no, he would know, you know. So
Yeah.
I could see either
I
way.
think it has to. I don't think I want to see them on screen together for exactly that reason.
Right? Yeah, I feel that. But yeah, there
Did
were
he
a lot
know
of.
in A New Hope?
No,
No.
he doesn't know. He doesn't have
Return
any,
of the Jedi, sister.
Oh,
so
sorry.
you have a twin sister. You know, Obi-Wan's failure is now complete. Blah,
Right.
blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay.
because I think doesn't Anakin not even know she's carrying twins?
Yeah,
I
he
think
doesn't
isn't
know
it
that.
like
He wouldn't
yeah,
know.
it's the little medical droid that says, "Oh, she's carrying twins."
Right, yeah, they
when,
find out right before she dies of sadness.
Of
or-
nothing.
Yeah.
right after she
Little
dies of
children.
being a woman in a Star Wars film.
Yeah.
Also true. Also true. Well, I mean, you've got to carry the weight of a lot of things because there's so few of you. So,
Yeah.
anyway, thank you all so much. To those of you in the chat, thanks so much. Great having you be a part of this. To all you listening, thank you all so much. My co-hosts have a lot of other great things going on. Ashley, starting with you, what are you doing up these days?
This same stuff, just MCU cast stuff. Star Wars, there's not much besides just those two right now for me. Oh, and we're doing the
You did
boys
The
on
Boys,
Panavision,
right?
I guess. Is that Panavision End?
Yeah, The Boys is on Pandavision.
Pandavision.
You and I and your friend
Just did
Mark
Stranger
just did Stranger Things, which is a lot of fun. There's a crossover universe that I need in which Princess Leia hangs out with a particular character who's a younger sister in Stranger Things, who I won't mention for spoilers, and they're both being babysat by Ms. Marvel. Like that's just, I need that universe to exist somewhere. But yeah, go to strandedpanda.com. You'll find all the good podcasts that our friends at the MCU cast, Panavision, all those are doing. Paul, what about yourself? What is the Zen Madman Misanthrope up to?
Like I'm just becoming a misanthrope. Come on.
The Zen Madanthrope.
Please don't.
Madam?
Yeah, Zen Madman on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and then Zen Madman Poker on YouTube as well. I'm doing in June. I'm spending 2 hours from 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time until like noon every single day, hanging out and like studying poker solvers, which is like basically like playing with AI. So I'm like tight with the droids, and it's a lot of fun. But if you don't really know poker, it's probably not that much fun. At some point, I'll make some videos that might actually appeal to people who aren't like super into poker. But yeah, if you're watching this or listening to this on YouTube, if you can subscribe at Zen Madman, it'll help us get the channel to the point where YouTube actually gives us some of the ad revenue that they derive from people watching the videos. And yeah, that's most of it. Also, I'm just hanging out here in Vegas where it's like 107. Tomorrow will be 109, then 110, then 111 on Saturday. It's just delightful. So, air conditioning for the win.
Yeah.
Paul's pointing this out because I'm flying to Vegas tomorrow.
That's right. Welcome.
And I was planning to see Paul, but since for COVID reasons we're only going to hang out outside, it may not happen. We'll see.
It gets down to like 100 at night.
I love dry 100-degree heat. Oh.
Yeah. There's something nice about it. There's something not nice about it too. So
I'll take my Minnesota winters. Thank you very much. Anyway, check out all the stuff both of those folks are doing. And of course, if you want to find out more of my podcasting, although both Paul and Ashley are on quite a lot of them, go to theethicalpanda.com. There you'll find Star Wars Universe podcast, superhero ethics podcast, plus a lot of times I guest on other podcasts. As Ashley said, we're doing Stranger Things. We're doing The Boys over on Pandavision. No big ethical questions to talk about in that show. I'm being sarcastic. And of course, most importantly there, though, you can find all the ways to give us feedback. Email, Twitter, Facebook, carrier pigeon, all that can be, not carrier pigeon, that's not really ethical. You can find all that on theethicalpanda.com. You can send a carrier panda. No, probably not. Anyway, I'm very tired. Theethicalpanda.com. Ashley is sadly shaking her head at me. I really need to end this. There you'll find all the things. Give us feedback. Even maybe leave a review of this. I really love more people to be finding this, especially in Kenobi. And when there's active reviews happening for the Star Wars Universe podcast, that's how people find it. That's how we grow. That's how I don't have to come to you with more Manscaped ads, because those transitions were fun, but I think we're glad that that period of time in our lives is over. So please check it out. Please leave us reviews. Please leave us feedback. And most importantly, please, as fans, be excellent to each other.
Bye.
May the Force be with you. Sometime.
And also with you.
With you.
Okay.